1, 2, 1, 2, 3, go. Hey there YouTubers, Seth here again, and we're going to do some kombucha. Now there's a lot of videos about making kombucha on the internet, and I've seen a few of them to help me get there. And I'm just going to show you like how I make my kombucha. And how I like to make my kombucha is flavoring it with frozen fruit, and we'll show that in time after the kombucha actually is set. The first thing that's very important is your mother. Now I'll provide a link where I got this from. I got this from Amazon. How it comes down is you need a container of some kind. I really strongly suggest glass, and you can use any kind of container. It doesn't really matter. You got these big old glass ones from Walmart, and then you got these pickle jars. Try to go for a pickle jar, and you can sanitize those out. Those are real simple. Just some vinegar and some baking soda, and you can deodorize it. Then you want to have some tea. Any kind of tea is fine. Do not use herbal teas that have strong essential oils in it. The oils that are in those types of teas will actually inhibit the bacterial growth of your kombucha. So plain tea, black tea, oolong tea, white tea, as long as it comes from the tea leaf, that's fine. So you got that. Then you want to get yourself a permeable material, cheesecloth. This is not cheesecloth. I actually picked this up at the dollar store. It's called flour sack. And if you can go into your Dollar General, that's where I bought this at. So if you have a Dollar General, check the home good aisle and see if they have flour sack material. And then you got to have some sugar. Now, you could use various different kinds of sugar, and that's really up to you if you're willing to experiment. I have not experimented with any other kinds of sugars, so I'm just going with plain white sugar. A lot of people suggest using organic sugar. Yeah, that is not a bad idea. Now, I do like organics, but unfortunately the whole organic market is a racket, so it's a double-edged sword. That's what comes with being a capitalist society. So, you want to have your sugar, and also you want something to connect your permeable material on top of the thing. And a lot of people use rubber bands. I'm going to use this. This is butcher's twine. I picked this up at Menards. You can buy this at practically any kind of store. This stuff is great. You want to definitely have cordage in your kitchen. And then for when it comes to the tea bags, the recipe I've seen use 6 tea bags per gallon. So right here we have a gallon jar. This is a 2-gallon jar. So we're going to be making 3 gallons of tea. Now, today I'm going to be experimenting with a much longer fermentation time. I'm going to go 2 weeks for this one. I usually go 10 days with my typical kombucha. That gives me the right level of sour that I prefer. A lot of kombuchas out there in the store are just way too sour. And that's one thing I've noticed that some people were complaining to me about some of the kombuchas out there. They think they're just way too vinegary. Well, with this kombucha, it's all about the time. So, the shorter the time, the sweeter it's going to be. The longer time, the more sour it's going to be. So, what we want to do is we want to take some boiling water and we put it in the tea. And you just use a lot. I don't know how much is in this thing. But let your tea sit. What I did was I tied all the strings together and put them on this spoon so they just don't float around just willy-nilly. I don't really like that. I don't like having to fish my tea leaves out. So I let the tea soak for a little bit. And the longer you let it sit, the more flavorful it's going to be. My understanding is black tea actually has some of the best flavor. So now that we got our tea right here. Now, when it comes to sugar, it's kind of a personal preference. They do make suggestions on how much sugar to use for a SCOBY. The bag that I originally got with the SCOBY in it said, a cup and a half of sugar. I'm not doing that because I tried that. It was way too sweet after 10 days. So we use a little less sugar. I found 1 cup of sugar. That's not an entire cup. I'll fix it later. about 1 cup of sugar per gallon. Okay. So 2 cups of sugar for 2 gallons, 1 cup of sugar for 1 gallon. If you really wanted to measure it out, that could be helpful. But I kind of just eyeball it. It's probably not enough. Oh well. Yama, yama, yama.
I'm mesmerized watching it go around the side. It looks like a wave.
And then take some cold water, because this is going to cool it down. You do not want to put the SCOBY in hot water. They do not like it. Now, they talk about having the water up to a 98 degree setting, because that's body temperature. 96, 94. Really, just, I'm going to be putting this on a heat mat, which is going to be a constant 75 degrees. That's a good temperature to be letting your kombucha sit at. Now, you want to use a wide mouth jar when you're making your kombucha because it allows more oxygen to get to the SCOBY. The more oxygen, the more chemical activation. So you have your food, you have your environment, you have your atmosphere. Living organism, a little alien almost. Actually, it looks like an alien when you're done with it. Now, I use filtered water. You don't want to necessarily use straight tap water, mostly because of the flavorings like the chlorine that go in it. I hate chlorine. And if you're starting from scratch, they recommend that you put some acid in here, vinegar. Now, if I did that when I first started my SCOBY. I put in Bragg's. Now, I'm not endorsed by Bragg's, but unfortunately, Bragg seems to be the only kind of vinegar out there that still has the mother in it. And that's really what you want, is that mother. It'll help stimulate the growth, but the acid level initially. But since we already have the mother and the daughter grown, and you take a little bit of the tea from the last batch, you throw that in there, and it'll actually keep it alive. So we're going to toss that baby right in there. Literally a baby. And then we're going to turn this mama in there.
It looks like life forms floating in jars.
Mm-hmm. And then we take our cloths and we put it over the top like that. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Then, this is the part where you have to wait. You want to put it in a warm, dark spot for, well, a designated amount of time, at least 7 days. But this guy is going to be going, or say this girl, is going to be going into the dark for about, I would say, 14 days. I'm doing an experiment to see how this is going to taste. So this one, it's been 10 days, and you know, you can go as long as you want. You can go 30 days, and my understanding, that's like the longest most people go when they're doing their kombucha. Now, technically speaking, kombucha is ready when you start getting a vinegary smell. That means that the sugars have converted into the acetic acid, and it also has those live cultures in them. Also, when you put in your kombucha, you should have it where it floats right here to the top. And if it's nice and active, it'll actually grow to the size of your container that you put it in. So this is basically what it turns into when it's done. So
it's definitely grown.
So it needs to float. I forgot its little home. Can you grab the mother jars? Mm-hmm. Just one. So it still is alive when it floats to the top, and it grows. And it actually will make another spore. And in fact, actually, if we look right here, it looks like it's starting to grow.
Ooh, yay, we had a fresh one.
Another child. So that's good. That's a good sign. It means that the mother is still active. So you want to take that out and put it in its little home. And then you take a cup of your liquid and you put it in there. This allows the kombucha to have a little home to keep it alive. It's its little atmosphere. You can do more than a cup if you really want to. It's no big deal.
You're basically keeping it comatose in the fridge with that liquid.
Yep. It's going into a state of suspended animation. So that's our mother, and eventually she'll make a daughter. We'll just put her right there. And when it comes to fruit, fresh fruit is definitely the best thing you want to do. And you can use any fruit you want to do. Now, my suggestion, don't do mango because it comes out with this very eggy kind of smell. It tastes okay, but it smells like the yellow part of an egg. And I think that might have something to do with maybe the vitamin B's that are in it. I don't really know. All I know is I don't like mango. I tried it. Pineapple is one of my favorite. Strawberry is really good. Black cherry is another one of my favorites. And blueberry is pretty decent. And, you know, you can put as much as you want. So if you don't want a lot of fruit taste, you don't need to put a lot of fruit in there. But me, I really like that nice, strong flavor of fruit. So it all depends on what kind of bottle you use. So the bottle we're going to be using are these swing top bottles by a beer maker called Grolsch.
I don't know if you can see that. You can bring it a little closer in.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
There we go. So these are Grolsch bottles. And of course, I'm not endorsed. And of course, if you're under the age of 21, you legally should not drink it. And I legally cannot say that you should. So, but the reason I choose these Grolsch bottles is because they're a beer bottle. So they are designed to withstand pressure. You can see that it's got a little bit of a butt right there. And this is a nice thick glass. And the seals, as long as the seals are good, then you can just keep using them. Some of these bottles are actually pretty old, but just maintain a seal and they're nice and tight. I really like these. Now, you gotta be careful though. They may keep the gas in for too much, and then when you open them, they'll explode all over the place. That's what I found happens with the black cherry. The black cherry somehow makes a very explosive kombucha.
Do you suggest like burping the bottles like occasionally?
I would suggest burping them like, you know, after the 3 days of sitting. You can sit maybe longer, but I found that 3 days is perfectly fine. What's happening right now is the sugars from the fruit are both flavoring the kombucha, and they're also providing the carbon gas to give it that slight fizziness that you want. Now, I don't know how to make it really fizzy like a lot of the kombuchas that are in the store, but with this, you get a very mild fizz. And this is the closest to homemade, and you know, you would say it's more natural because you know that it's not being injected by carbon gas. Instead, it's actually from the fruit, and it's a little better on your stomach anyway. So we're gonna take the time to blend up this fruit. I put a little too much in this container right here. So what I'll do
Take a couple out.
is I'll dump some of this out because you want to have enough room for everything to move around. And so I'm going to do it in batches. I'm going to use all, I'm thinking I can use all of this because we got 3 different flavors here. And we're going to...
Oh, and essentially you've made a double batch because we got that other thing of kombucha brewing too.
We do,
For a couple more
but
days.
that's only a gallon. So usually I use about 6 bottles for that. And that's the thing. So one thing I wanted to say that I just remembered is that if you have fruit that doesn't seem to be moving too good, it doesn't hurt to pour a little bit of your kombucha in there because it is going to go back in anyway. So, and yeah, definitely if you are using frozen fruit, maybe you want to let it sit out for a little bit so that it can warm up and not freeze your hands like it did me a little bit ago. Because of the amount of fruit, I needed to do this in a couple batches. So we're gonna do the second batch here, and we're gonna get to see it all squeezed out. So now that I finally juiced everything, and that took about, I don't know, 20 minutes, we're gonna now put our kombucha tea in the bottles. And you can do various different ways. You can do the siphoning method, or you can, you know, just dip right in and just start pouring. And you know, like, you know, how much do you put in? You put in as much as you want, but you want to leave a little bit of headspace so that you have enough room to capture the gas, but not too much that they may possibly blow out. So this thing is heavy. This is 2 gallons. So, you know, that's about 16 pounds of weight that I have to work with. So after you've filled up your bottles with your kombucha and you have your fruit, I like to just turn it over once, like that. That incorporates the fruit flavorings. And definitely label your bottles. I never was super great about labeling my bottles.
You learned the hard way, didn't you?
Yeah, I learned a lot. I mean, I don't care. I'm drinking it, you know, so I don't care. It's a mystery. I know what flavors I'm kind of getting.
Right.
So when you're done making your kombucha and filling up your bottles, put it in a box and put it somewhere out of the way at room temperature. And this will allow it to do the final fermentation, which is called the second fermentation, which gives it the gas and the sweetened flavorings that you would like. Now, it's actually kind of warm in this house, so it may actually take fewer days than I thought, but typically I do 3 days. And after 3 days, burp them to make sure they don't explode all over your face when you want to go take a drink, and boom, there you go. You got yourself some homemade kombucha that, you know, is a lot cheaper, and you know that is good for you. Now, of course, I'm saying that it's cheaper without giving you any numbers. Just trust me, I'm not a doctor, so it's all good. So you guys take it easy and enjoy your homemade kombucha. Check out other videos, of course, but definitely check out mine. Like and subscribe. More videos are going to be coming in the future. And you guys take it easy.